urgent, Steelers fan! Look at what just happened! Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Falcons-Steelers make for obvious trade pairing in 2025 NFL Draft. The Steelers need a quarterback, the Falcons need picks, making them an obvious partner. There are certain things in the draft that are bound to happen. The Titans drafting Cam, Ward, the Raiders drafting Ashton Jeanty, the Eagles landing some star talent that shouldn't have fallen, and the Falcons and Steelers pulling off a win-win first-round trade. The Atlanta Falcons have just 5 picks. With holes on defense, they must trade down at some point, hopefully, in the first round. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting on Aaron Rodgers, and even if they do land him, they need a plan for the future. According to reports, their eyes are on one name who may push them to be aggressive. Watch for Atlanta Falcons and Pittsburgh Steelers to make a first-round trade. The Steelers have done their homework on quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft, but one has reportedly caught their eye, Shedder Sanders. Peter Schrager disclosed the following information. He had a really good meeting with the Pittsburgh last week, and that lasted like 5 hours. He met with Arthur Smith. He met with Mike Tomlin. He went around the facility. That, to me, seems like a good backstop. If worse comes to worse for Schedler, 21 would be a really nice place for him to go. It would be a really good situation considering the weapons, the organization, the culture, the city. Will Sanders fall to Pittsburgh at number 21? It will all start with him getting past the Giants at number 3. If Big Blue passes on him, he may fall to the 20s. That said, any team that identifies a franchise QB has to be aggressive. A passive approach will allow another team to jump ahead and take the Colorado QB. This is why they will call the Falcons about trading up 6 spots. The Falcons must add picks while not risking their chance at a talented edge rusher. With so many first-round talents at the position, dropping 6 spots won't change much. All in all, the Falcons and the Steelers are primed to flip spots in the first round. It makes too much sense not to happen. Pausing this news, just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest the black and gold news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Steelers truly believe Aaron Rodgers will sign with them. Dulac thinks the Steelers may not have assurances from Aaron Rodgers, but either way, they certainly know more than we do. They also know more about the situation than the beat writers, who talk about it. Rodgers himself seemed to help enlighten us all a bit about his situation last week, but there remains no resolution. But even Steelers owner Art Rooney II said that he's hearing things about Aaron Rodgers coming and signs are positive. That might not be any kind of promise, but it has to be based on something. And that seems to be the operation under which everyone is working, including Jerry Dulac. They're not flying by the seat of their pants, the veteran Steelers reporter said last week on the Rich Eisen show about the Rodgers situation. I think they truly believe that he will sign with them and that they will go forward, but they are well aware that that may not happen. But I believe that they believe he will be on this team. Now when? I don't know that. The obvious question is what makes the Steelers truly believe Aaron Rodgers will sign with them, assuming that they do. The fact that there is no other current suitor for him has to help. Perhaps from their conversations, they got the sense that he does want to play and just has unresolved life issues. When he spoke recently, Rodgers said that there are people in his inner circle dealing with some serious matters that currently have his attention. At least in the abstract, not knowing the details, that's an honorable thing. Of course, it doesn't help the Steelers any, since they're trying to make plans for the future. And the rest of us on the outside are just trying to figure out what their patterns mean. That would be my feeling just because the Steelers are willing to wait for Rodgers, Dulac said. And that, of course, is not supposition, as Rooney said they're willing to wait. And actually, HC Mike Tomlin went even further in his public willingness to allow Rodgers his space, with no deadline. But the Steelers did speak to Rodgers, and even if it's just a feeling based on his words and his body language, they're going on something. Otherwise, Dulac said, I think they would have had some other indicator to think, okay, you know what? Plan B better come into effect here very soon, and they're just not there yet, so I think he will be on this roster. Notably, Dulac also offered that nothing Rodgers said last week surprised the Steelers. Rodgers mentioned retirement, so presumably they were aware that that was on his mind. The R word has floated about around him all off-season, he even contemplated it years ago, but regardless of what they do or do not know, they have no choice but to wait anyway. Steelers would draft Shedeur Sanders over D linemen in round 1. Brooke Pryor believes the possibility of Colorado QB Shedeur Sanders falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the number 21 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft continues to look more likely as we get closer to the draft on Thursday. While the Steelers have long been thought to be targeting a defensive lineman in the first round, ESPN's Brooke Pryor believes that if Sanders is on the board for the Steelers, he's going to be the team's first-round selection if the Saints pass. On Shedeur Sanders, I think the Steelers address quarterback in round 1, and it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur Sanders is not on the board, then maybe defensive line. To me, that's the second option, Pryor said on the Fan Morning Show on 93.7. The Fan. Pryor believes that Mike Tomlin is a fan of Sanders' football pedigree, and he could give the Steelers someone to rally behind on offense and give that unit an identity. Pittsburgh hosted Sanders for a pre-draft visit. Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported that it went well. While the Steelers continue to wait on an answer from QB Aaron Rodgers, they still don't have a long-term answer at quarterback. Sanders could represent a solution, even if he doesn't see the field, much or at all as a rookie. It didn't seem likely that Sanders would make it to Pittsburgh even a month ago, and Pryor admitted that it didn't seem like a first-round quarterback was likely at all until recently. But with the smoke that Sanders could fall, the Steelers changed their approach and started to consider him as a legitimate possibility. Now, it looks like he's firmly in the mix to be the team's selection on Thursday. The Saints at number 9 pose a threat as a team to draft Sanders, with Derek Carr potentially out for the year. The Giants at number 3 taking Sanders or moving back into the first round ahead of Pittsburgh to select him can't be completely ruled out. If Sanders does fall, then Pittsburgh will have the opportunity to select a player that many thought would be one of the top 3 picks in the draft and someone who could be a franchise quarterback, which is hard to find where the Steelers usually draft. It's a deep defensive line class, and that could tempt the Steelers into waiting to select one if they feel they'll be able to nab a potential franchise quarterback. Given the homework they've done on Shedeur Sanders, it wouldn't be a surprise at all if he's donning the black and gold by the end of the week. Pickins among players on Schefter's list who could be expendable on draft night. The Pittsburgh Steelers are without a second-round pick after the trade to acquire WRDK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks. While that filled one big hole on the roster, it leaves Pittsburgh in a difficult spot with a long gap after its first-round pick. According to Adam Schefter, George Pickens could be among the draft day trade candidates. In his annual pre-draft buzz file on ESPN with insider insights from around the league, Schefter listed several players who could potentially be dealt during the draft. Among the players on rookie contracts who could be deemed expendable was George Pickens. If the Steelers really want to get back into the second round of the draft, or at least walk out of day 2 having made 3 picks, trading Pickens is their best chance of doing so. The speculation about dealing Pickens started during the 2024 season. This offseason would be the time to give him a long-term contract with 1 year remaining on his rookie deal, but some of his maturity issues made that seem like less of a possibility. He is scheduled to enter free agency next offseason, which gives the Steelers a few options. Pickens can be dealt now to maximize 2025 draft capital. He can also be dealt at the trade deadline if the season plays out poorly, but his value on a 7-game rental wouldn't be as high. Finally, they can let him play out his rookie contract and hope for a third-round compensatory return in the 2027 NFL Draft if he signs a big contract elsewhere. Of course, the third option carries more risk as a significant injury could derail his compensatory value. When the Steelers gave Metcalf a big-money contract extension after trading for him, an eventual Pickens extension felt unlikely. The WR class in this upcoming draft isn't viewed as very strong. If a team misses on one of the top 2 or 3 options and gets desperate for WR help, that could obviously boost George Pickens' trade value. If Aaron Rodgers was on the roster, I would lean toward keeping Pickens to give the 4-time NFL MVP a strong receiving core. If the Steelers are forced to head into the season with Mason Rudolph and a rookie as their top 2 options, then it probably makes more sense to deal Pickens. If Pickens is moved, they are right back where they started with needing a WR2 receiver. would be bumped up the Steelers' list of priorities in the draft if they trade Pickens, but it would open up their possibilities significantly with way more flexibility over the first 2 days. Report George Pickens could be traded ahead of NFL draft, with the NFL draft just days away. Front offices around the league are finalizing boards and bracing for trades, and that includes the possibility of moving current roster players. One name now generating buzz: George Pickens. According to a Monday morning ESPN report featuring insights from NFL insider Adam Schefter, the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver could be part of a trade conversation as teams jockey for position ahead of Thursday's first round. Draft weekend is also a busy time for trades of players already on rosters, Schefter said, listing Pickens among a group of players on rookie contracts who could be deemed expendable. NFL draft intel, everything we're hearing ahead of round 1 of Thursday night's draft. https://CO7X6U85FDA4. Adam Schefter, April 21, 2025. The idea isn't without context. Pickens, entering the final year of his rookie deal, led the Steelers with 900 receiving yards in 2024. But Pittsburgh recently acquired DK Metcalf, who's under contract on a 4-year, $132 million deal, given the financial commitment required. To retain both receivers long-term, speculation around Pickens' future has only grown louder. Off the field, questions have emerged as well. Pickens has been criticized for inconsistency in body language since he was drafted, and he raised eyebrows after Pittsburgh's playoff exit with a comment hinting at pessimism about the team's direction. Another wrinkle? The Steelers currently hold the number 21 overall pick, and per Schefter, they could be willing to move back. On the other side of things, the Steelers' number 21 are among the teams interested in moving back from their first-round slot. He added a note that further fuels speculation about whether Pittsburgh could package Pickens as part of a draft day deal. No move is guaranteed, but as the first round nears, Pickens' name is one worth watching closely. Steelers interested in trading back. Latest on teams' QB draft approach. All 32 teams still own their first-round pick as the countdown to the draft nears an end. Movement up and down the order could be in store soon, although 2025 is not expected, to witness many blockbuster trades given the nature of this year's class. As a result, the list of teams interested in moving back is lengthier than usual. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Steelers are among those looking to trade down, something which comes as little surprise. Pittsburgh's acquisition of Pro Bowl wideout DK Metcalf included the team's second-rounder in 2025, so trading back to recoup some of that lost capital would be a feasible approach. As Schefter notes, however, there are few known parties looking to trade up. The Steelers own pick number 21, which may put them in range to add a quarterback. Per Schefter, the team did not originally intend to select a signal caller on the opening night of the draft, but the board may allow for that to take place. Shadur Sanders has been viewed at times as a first-round lock, but has seen his stock drop recently, something Schefter adds the Steelers did not anticipate. The Colorado product may be available as a result, and head coach Mike Tomlin has been named as a Sanders supporter. Pittsburgh is also among the teams which have put together a strong evaluation of Jackson Dart. The Ole Miss product is considered a first-round prospect by the Steelers, a team still in need of a long-term Ben Roethlisberger successor. Mason Rudolph is back in the organization, but it would come as no surprise if a rookie were to be added this week as competition for the starting gig in 2025, or at least an option to take over QB1 duties down the road. Aaron Rodgers looms as a stopgap option for next season, but it remains to be seen if he will play in 2025, and if so, for the Steelers. Pittsburgh has remained patient while awaiting a decision on the Rodgers front, and that process could easily extend past the draft. It will be interesting to see if a first-round signal caller is in the fold shortly in the Steelers' case, or if the team aims to trade down on the opening night of the draft. Marcy 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft. In 13 years of writing about the Steelers, I've never liked doing mock drafts. In fact, I skipped last year entirely, though I was pretty successful in 2023. But people like to read mock drafts, and we're all doing them, so here's mine. I've used the same process as always to create these Steelers mock drafts. I make use of mock draft simulators this year. I primarily used Pro Football Focus Simulator, adjusted all the way to the public rather than PFF board. I run a handful of simulations, and then I collate my preferred choices based on the ranges I see. Importantly, I also mock not necessarily who I would draft, but who I think the Steelers might draft. I also largely let the simulator tell me who will and will not be available, with some modifications. In other words, for all the hell, never. Be their comments, blame the simulation. Every pick made here was available every single time I ran a simulation. Chances are you can shuffle the round of a couple picks and be just as close. So without further ado, here's yet another mock draft for you to hate. Round 1, 21st overall, DT Kenneth Grant, Michigan 6'2", 331 pounds. Mock drafts around the internet might not always have Kenneth Grant available for the Steelers. Many might question the value of a 0 or 1 tech this high as well. I don't see it. That way with Grant, the Steelers are getting a nickel tackle. That's their base, and Grant won't be limited there. He also lets you slide Keanu Benton to 5 tech, which I think is worth strongly considering. Round 3, 83rd overall, RB RJ Harvey, Central Florida, 50-80, 205 pounds. The Steelers miss out on a lot of running backs in my simulated mock drafts. The run happens in the second round and early third, apparently, so we'll see what actually happens. For me, Harvey makes a lot of sense even with some question marks, but you can go several ways. Round 4, 123rd overall QB Will Howard, Ohio. State 60-42, 236 pounds. I don't really want to draft a quarterback, but it seems all Steelers mock drafts require one. And if I could land Will Howard in the 4th round or even 5th, that seems like the most desirable outcome. Odds are he's a career backup, which is how most of this class profiles, but he has some tools. Round 5, 156th overall SRJ Pickins, Clemson 6,199 pounds. The Steelers spent most of this draft addressing the defense. Most mock drafts probably have them taking a wide receiver, but I'm not convinced. They used their 2nd round pick on a receiver already, DK Metcalf. There's a lot of talk about the run defense too, but the secondary also needs help. They get important. Depth at safety in Pickens here, and he has some slot flexibility. Round 6, 185th overall, DL Ty Robinson, Nebraska 65'1", 288 pounds. I see a pretty wide range for Ty Robinson, including some as high as the 3rd round, but he is there for the Steelers consistently in my mock drafts right here. With Grant in the 1st, a more traditional 5-tech is desirable, and if they get him in the 6th, he sure beats their usual later round pickups. Round 7, 229th overall, CB Justin Wally, Minnesota 5'101", 190 pounds. Of course we have to end our mock drafts with a Steelers pre-draft visitor, and Wally fits the bill. This could also be a spot for a wide receiver. I'm not wholly convinced they draft a cornerback. Overall, I think this class would at least represent good value, but I also think this draft class is one where the talent group is so bunched together that the middle and later round prospects can go just about anywhere based on the whims of individual teams. More so than in most years, as it's always true to some extent. I might not be a fan of mock drafts, but if the Steelers came away with this, I could live with it. I would strongly consider other running back options in the 3rd round, but this is what the simulator fed me. If the quality of depth pushes the position into the 3rd round, all the better for the Steelers. And now, Steelers fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for the black and gold. I'll be back any moment with more Steeler Nation news. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.